Well, hello, dear listeners, and welcome to another episode of Romance at a Glance. I am your host, Bridget. With me, as always, is my co-host, Shawnee. How you doing today, Shawnee?
I'm doing so good, Bridget, because you know this is my favorite book.
Yes, today we're talking Lover Mine, John Matthew and Xhex. Let's get into it. Romance at a glance. Romance at a glance.
What you saying now?
Romance at a glance.
Go ahead, girl.
All right, fair friends. Lover Mine. Who else out there is a monster John Matthew fan like Shawnee and I? Is it you?
Me.
Is it you?
It's me.
Is it us?
I'm the number one.
This is episode 7 of season 2 of our podcast, but Black Dagger Brotherhood book number 8. And I have to say, this book held up. A couple of the other books that we've read have not held up to the test of rereading, and this book really held up for me. How about for you?
This book really, really held up. Actually, this book was like, you know when you have like young love and then you have like what they call like old, they have new relationship energy love.
Yes.
And then old relationship energy love.
I do.
This had that old relationship energy love. It changed. The first time I read it, it was more like, This time it was like,
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, It was so satisfying for me.
So satisfying. Not only was the main couple incredibly satisfying in this book, but also the subplot of Blake, Quinn, and Saxon was incredibly intense.
Ooh.
I will say the one thing I did not love about this book was the other 2 side plots. The one in the southern paranormal mansion, didn't care. And even the past with Darius and Torment, I actually guessed before the book was over what was going to happen and who no one was going to be.
Yeah.
But I felt like it took a really long time to get there. And I was kind of like, okay, let's just move this along.
Yes.
And then as always, like, I don't care all that much about lessers. Lash, I felt like got what was coming to him. I felt like he deserved to have all his skin fall off and to turn into a decrepit monster.
Oh
my gosh. Because that was his inside being reflected on the outside.
Do you know, so one of the things I think that when I first read this book and I was skipping all these Lash and lesser parts, it didn't allow me to have these feelings of like, there is this dude whose skin is falling off and whatever. So the book was much more like light and enjoyable that way. And when you read this book and read all of these parts in between that bring your mood up and down and up and down and up and down, that's why I feel like the love that I feel with John Matthew and Xhex in this book is a yummier, lovier, warm type of love than when I first read it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yes. And also I felt a lot more validation when she gets to kill Lash at the end. Because I read all the other parts, I was like, oh, hell yes. So much happier that he died. I was always happy he died because like he's just a shitty character and a shitty person. Or not a shitty character. He's a shitty person. He's a well-written character. But I felt like in this book, I was like yearning for him to get what was coming to him. And actually, in a terrible way, I was kind of hoping that the Omega was going to like rape him, which I felt like was really dark in my mind, but I'm a little ashamed to admit it. But I was kind of hoping that was also going to happen to him. I was happy she did get to kill him.
I guess the Omega was, disappointed that he wanted a female or whatever. I felt like the Omega gave up on him really quickly. He was like, man, my son is a punk ass bitch. I'm over this.
Punk ass bitch.
He's not, the Omega's not for toxic relationships.
Yeah, but I kind of wanted a POV from the Omega because when Lash was created, we got to have the Omega's POV. So I wish that we had gotten at least a few paragraphs of that. Because I agree, it did seem really fast. However, in the last book, the Omega does talk about how he thinks that Lash is going to be like the second coming. So I think it was less about him wanting a female and more about the weakness that required him to feed to stay alive and to keep his power.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That was how I read it.
So I think that the most romantic thing that happened in this book, Bridget, is when John Matthew puts Xhex's hand around that dagger and helps her kill Lash. I mean, I was like, butterflies, all of the butterflies that was my moment.
Especially since we're in book 8 and we've been given every single book the idea that this bonded male, like, the biology can't be overridden and he has to take vengeance and he has to protect his female and blah, blah, blah. And in this book, I thought that was like such a clear indication of the strength of his character, that he was able to circumvent that biology and suppress his own need to kill Lash, which he had every right to kill Lash too, not only as her mate, but also for himself, for like Lash trying to, rape him, Lash fighting him. Like, they had a lot of bad blood separately. So I really loved that scene. I thought that John Matthew really earned all of the love that I have for him, which I was happy about. It was a lot of mushy love. And it went a long way for me in terms of Xhex's decision to not kill herself and to not, like, take the vengeance and then fade away. Because he basically is, like, proving to her through actions that he's going to be the mate who will, like, stand by her side and not only, like, protect her and hold her hand and love her, but also let her be who she is, which is someone who's going to want to stab that motherfucker by herself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man. So, okay, let's go, like, back to the beginning because we are at the end right now.
We are at the end.
We're at the end.
Okay. Great plan. So the last book, we left off with Revenge and Elena getting together and the cuteness of them. Revenge is now the king of the sympaths, holding it down. Wrath has decided to embrace being king of vampires. And in that rescue attempt, or actually successful rescue, it was not an attempt, Xhex gets captured by Lash and some freaky deaky omega magic he has, and whisked away into a room that no one can see her or find her, where she has now spent the last month being beaten and raped every day by Lash. So that's kind of where we're at the beginning.
At the end of the last podcast, Bridget, when you were like, Xhex is going to be raped a bunch, I was like it really hadn't sunk in. And after you said that, I was dreading reading this book. I was like, no, if I don't read it, it never happened.
Mm-hmm. I know.
And then, so I love the fact, though, that Xhex is constantly fighting Lash with everything that she has. Even when she's, like, standing, she's super weak or whatever, she, like, never puts her guard down. Those moments between her and Lash in the room were so intense. I was so in it when it was happening. And then it made it even more, like, heartbreaking when, like, you see John Matthew, trying his hardest to find where she is. And when they do finally find it, and he's in the room with her, and she's cloaked, and he can't get to Bridget. Come on. How did you feel?
Oh, my God. I literally was half in tears. The moment when she says, like, watching him fall apart cracked the rest of her heart. I was like, yeah. And then also when she says, please don't leave me here, take me with you. I was like, I couldn't even imagine that, because she's literally been holding her shit together by a fucking thread. Like, she's, like, mixing cocktails in her mind to keep from going insane, knowing that every day is going to be another brutality. And then here comes this guy who she's in love with, but will not recognize that. And he's there, he's ready to save her, and she can't get to him. And he can't get to her. I mean, that for me, I was like, but you know one thing I did like about this, because I do feel like a lot of times in books in general and in this series, the guys are always saving the girls. So Bella got saved by Zadist. And I really liked in this book that she recognizes Lash's weakness and recognizes that this is her moment because he's feeling weak, and busts herself the fuck out of there. Yeah. Which I liked, because I think, it was, like, going along with her character. But also it was nice that she had a little agency in escaping, because I think probably as, like, someone who's survived that, that feels more powerful. Like, I got away from him. And then obviously she kills him.
I would not have enjoyed this book if she had been saved, if she had not saved herself in that situation. Like, it would have made me upset because that's not her character. Yes. That's, like, just not who she is. So I would have been like, you sold me a bill of goods.
Like, Vicious, you sold me a bill of goods. Where's my BDSM? All right. Let's go all the way back to the beginning because we're really just diving so hard into this. I want to give you a few fun facts and I want to talk quick about a few other things.
Okay. I'm ready for these fun facts. I love fun facts. Okay, let's go.
Number 1. I like that J.R. Ward, first of all, a lot of people call her the Warden, which I think is very cute. So when answering questions about her books, she basically always devolves into innuendo. So she was answering a question about a character she would want to see in future books. And she said, murder is coming, people. He's coming. That's what she said. I just have to fit him in. That's also what she said. And I was just like, that's fucking hysterical. This is just a fun fact about how much she writes. She's been writing 3 books a year, 1 Black Dagger Brotherhood, 1 Black Dagger Brotherhood trainee, and 1 Bourbon Kings book. 3 a book. 3 books a year, which is fucking crazy. Because not only are they just 3, they're all hella long. Like, this book was 512 pages. That's a long-ass book. And yeah, so that's just astounding. It's not even a fun fact, it's just astonishing. And then my other fun fact.
I think the Warden is a good name for her because she has to be like a warden of her own time in order to be able to make this happen. I wish I had this discipline. Dear God.
I agree. I'm not even sure I can do like an Instagram post a day. And it's like she's writing, probably like 25 pages a day. And then the other fun fact, we always talk about how she really loves rap and hip hop and Jay-Z. And especially she talks about it a lot in the earlier books. And that is what she listens to while she's running to keep up her pace. So that explains why she has such a good knowledge of sort of different songs and different things. She probably was listening to it on her run and popped it into the book.
Ah, okay. So I have literally gone through this thought thread so many times, which is in these books, there are so many pop culture references that I'm like, how can one person know all of these things to even think to put them into a book? Do you know what I mean? I guess if she dreams it, maybe that's how. But I'm like, she writes like 10 hours a day, but then also has to be, watching The Real Housewives and all of these shows to be able to put all these references. I'm like, where? How? When do you see your husband?
She probably is one of those people who she probably only sleeps like 5 hours a night.
I believe it. She probably goes to bed at like 9. She's like one of those people who goes to bed from like 9 to 2.
Yeah. Yeah, or she's in bed at like midnight, wakes up at 5, and is just like back at it. Who knows? It's a mystery. It's really a mystery, but she does a good job. All right, let's get back into the characters. So, where we just left off, Xhex broke herself out. I thought the scene where Revenge and the brothers sort of pay him the respect of a bonded male after he absolutely fucking shreds to pieces that lesser was kind of a nice moment of showing that he's now a grown-up and he's no longer at the kids' table, Yeah. And I also thought it was kind of interesting that she calls Revenge to say, I'm out, I'm fine, I'm going to get my vengeance. But Revenge even doesn't know about her apartment where John Matthew finds her. John Matthew is the only person who's ever been there. And I thought that was a really sort of beautiful testament to the fact that even though she won't admit it, John Matthew is real deep under her skin.
Mm-hmm. That's her boy. That's her. I love that even when they first met, that it wasn't like a love at first sight thing, but it was a connection at first sight. Even when he was like a pre-trans and she was like, huh, But at the end of the day, like Xhex is like this androgynous, like, they talk about her as like having no boobs, having no body, really, no curves, no nothing. Mm-hmm. She's a bit of a pre-trans as well.
Except for that, she's like 6 feet tall and like muscly and shit.
Yeah, but I mean, like in terms of like, it looks like she hasn't necessarily gone through puberty.
Oh, yeah.
You know? But I love that they had that initial connection in the beginning. I love the slow burn of John Matthew and Xhex. And I love that even in the last book, like, they left us at awkward middle school. Like,
what is your thought about the fact that their connection could be Darius's shadow self within John Matthew, and the fact that he was there when Xhex was born and took care of her as a child?
Well, I mean, I love that, and it's plausible. It's like, as crazy as it is, because it's like the reincarnation of Darius. But Tor is also there, and I like the parallels of Tor shooting Lash, as well as shooting
I did too.
The sympath that was Xhex's father.
Holding Xhex's mom, right.
Yeah.
And I guess it was Xhex's father, yeah, true. Yeah,
I mean, I actually did enjoy it. I didn't think it was like a far-fetched thing. I do think that storyline played out so long. So this book is my favorite book, but
fucking slow.
God, I was like,
yeah, I'm like, you could have cut half that shit. Do not care. Yeah, or actually, I don't not care. I think it took too long. Yeah. We went back to them too many times. Well, and all the stuff we were reading was just like them being like, it's so unfair for this female. Like, it took too long, I thought.
Yeah, and so, like, sometimes I think J.R. Ward gives too much description about the situation. Sometimes it's warranted. I'm like, oh, wow, she painted that picture perfectly. And sometimes I'm like, I don't need that much to know. Like, we followed the entire investigation with Darius and Tor. And I was like, we didn't need that investigation to last that long. Also, just on a side note about the narration.
Please.
So we've talked about Jim Frangione. And this is not his fault. Whoever edited this book did a poor job. There are between every chapter, the gap before the next one starts is so long that I would keep checking my phone to make sure, like, nobody was calling and it hadn't shut off Audible. There was certain time, and then there's times where I can hear, I think he's taking a drink in between takes. There's the noise reduction, like nobody did, certain parts where there's like no noise reduction. There's certain parts where I can tell that Jim Frangione did a punch-in, so it's like, oh, he messed up two words, so he goes back in and records it, and it'll be like, hello, how are you doing? And I was like, who did this book? It needs to be redone. And when I looked at the comments today, I was like, oh, so it's not just me. Everybody noticed this. It was done very poorly. And it's not the narrator's fault. It's whoever produced this. So anyway, that was my little segue there because that annoyed the shit out of me.
All right. So it sounds like Love or Mine is one of these that you should read, either a physical copy or a digital copy instead of listening.
Absolutely.
All right. Good to know.
Absolutely.
I really liked Jane in her book, as you know.
Yes.
And this book continued to solidify the fact that I think she's a bad bitch because her treatment of Xhex and the calm confidence of her care with regards to the internal exam, with regards to her helping Xhex at least minutely begin to overcome her phobia of labs by asking her to watch the procedure, explaining it to her, by telling her, were you violated? Do I need to check for that? Like, just making her feel at every stage that there is no, like, wrong answer to these things, and that she's just so calm and competent and really, like, she's an exemplary example of what you would want your surgeon or doctor to be. And I just really liked that dynamic, and I liked kind of getting to sit a little bit more with Jane.
Yeah, I do too. I liked also that there was a good doctor-patient confidentiality. Like, whatever happens here is going to stay here. I think it's easy in the Brotherhood because it's not real life. Even for them, it's not like normal life. They don't have necessarily have the same rules as out in the human world. So I think sometimes the sharing of information can be nonchalant. And John Matthews there, like, what's going on? What's going on? And she's like, that ain't none of your business. If she won't tell you, she won't tell you.
Yeah.
I do find that, when John Matthew goes back to the apartment and Xhex is there, like almost near death, and even when J.R. Ward says, like, she was so weak, her teeth couldn't even like break the skin on his wrist, so she could feed. And so he helps her, and like the caring that he has in this scene, oh, man, I loved it. I loved it. I love when he's carrying her, and she's just like, she tried to put up a fight for a second. I was like, no, I can, and then she's like, whatever. All of these moments for me were really pretty, and all the way along the line, even though they know that they love each other, there's not this like underlying expectation that they are going to be together. He's not like, oh, because I tattooed her name, because I saved her, because I've bonded and my bonding scent is there doesn't mean like she belongs to me,
Yeah. And in fact, the opposite. He thinks she's going to leave him. He's sure, and she is sure that this is only going to be a temporary partnership.
And that I think that's a beautiful sentiment. Like the fact that you have the choice to love someone, and it doesn't have to have expectations or anything else attached to it. So I just thought that was so beautiful,
and that you can love someone where they're at, even though it might not last forever. Like you can still care for them and still treat them with the most respect and the most care and the most love, and cherish them, even though they might leave you or you think they're going to leave you. Because really, at the end of the day, like, we don't know that the person that we love is going to love us back forever. But you're choosing to hope and to still, just love them the way that they need to be loved for that. I think that he really loves her also the way that she needs to be loved. And I think it's really wonderful that in this book, like, he's the one who's constantly, like, he's sitting in the room, but he's like, oh, I know she likes her space, so I'm sitting back. And she's the one who's like, come hold my hand. Come back, teach me sign language. Like, I want to be a part of your life too. And he's, like, when she described the way he has this huge grin on his face, I was just like, it's so sweet. He gets me. He gets me right in the cheeks, when you're smiling so big while reading and you're just like, squee!
And it's so justified, I think, Xhex's story too with John Matthew. It's like in other books when they're playing this like cat and mouse thing, sometimes you feel like it's super contrived and there's nothing really justifying it. But for her, like this already happened to her. She's replaying a past event that ended poorly. And
right.
And the only difference is that John Matthew knows she's a sympath. So she has no expectation that this will end differently. And that, she describes at the very end of the book how that was one of the most painful things she'd ever gone through. And she's like, and I only loved him half as much as John Matthew, And so her wanting to be close to him, but not wanting to cross the line into it being, more makes sense. It makes sense why she chose the line the whole time. It doesn't annoy me like it would in other books that they sit in that weird, awkward space for so long. I
really liked the way she described his emotional grids. Because we don't get to spend a ton of time in sort of that sympath point of view, because both her and Revenge are suppressing their sympath side all the time. But I thought it was really cool in this book that when he's walking her through his past and takes her to, the toilet stall where he was born, and then the orphanage, and then to the apartment, and then to Tor and Wellesley's house. And she describes how, she sees his emotional grid crumbling and then shore itself up just through like strength of will. I thought that was so interesting and so cool. And I also thought it was a little like, because he's never going to find out that Darius is like a part of him.
Yeah.
And so I liked the way she described that he had like the two emotional grids that were not in conflict but weren't the same, which I thought was kind of an interesting, like, it just is a kind of an interesting thing for her to know about him, I guess. I'm not sure what she would really do about it, but it's just kind of cool. And then when she eventually meets her mom at the very end and she reads her grid and is like, she immediately knows it's my mom because they have the same emotional grid. Like, kind of, I took that as like the same emotional sort of foundation. I really liked those scenes. I thought that was super fascinating. And also that Revenge is always worried that he's going to be manipulating people and that the sympath side will bring out the darkness in him and that he'll manipulate people and be bad. And I feel like Xhex is not really ever worried about that. Like, at least with him, like, she's never trying to manipulate him or even worried she might. She's just using it to understand him more, which I like about her.
Yeah. And what do you feel about the tattoo? Like when she sees the tattoo on his back?
I actually thought that scene was interesting for two reasons. One, I thought his response was fair, which was like, you've told me that we're not going to be together forever. So like, this tattoo is not for you, basically. This was for me and my love of you. But like, you're not really involved in that if you're going to leave me and you don't want to be a part of this partnership. So I actually was okay with him being like, I don't want to talk about this. I thought that her shock about it also was fair, though, because that's a huge thing. Because she even says, like, what is his future Shellen going to do? Put her name under mine?
Yeah.
And that in their culture, because that is such a huge deal and you would mark your back with your Shellen, he's basically saying that even though they weren't mated, she was his mate or she is his mate and putting her above all these other future people. Now, I know in the future Tor... Spoiler, but it's not really because this book has been out for a long time. But I know eventually Tor finds a new mate, but I honestly can't remember what happens. But I'm assuming that he carves the next mate's name under Wellesley's name. That's my guess. You're not going to not carve your second mate's name because they live for like hundreds of years.
You gonna carve my name?
You gonna carve my name?
You
your
back,
carve, son.
You know, but isn't it like a? Isn't? Am I making this up? Is it a reincarnation of Wellesley? Or I could totally be making that up. I don't remember whatsoever.
She doesn't.
But how special is it though if you can just get another Shellen though? Like, I don't like that. Like, how special is it if you could just get another mate and who's bonding and who like.
So. Okay, I agree. However, it doesn't mean that you're bonded to the next one. So you might get another mate, but she might not be a bonded. And some of the people essentially get mated or married to someone they aren't bonded to.
That's true. Because I feel like, you know, like Quinn's parents, I don't think they were bonded.
Right, it's like a political alliance, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I mean, even Wrath and Beth. I mean, Wrath and not Beth. Wrath and Marissa. You know, we're not bonded.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Speaking of which, did Vicious and Jane ever get bonded? Or ever get mated?
No, so they never talk about them getting mated, or at least not the whole, like, carving the name in the back and that whole thing. Like,
if I was Jane, I'd be like, you better get carved up right now. I'd be like, I will wield my scalpel on your skin.
Maybe Jane doesn't want it because, you know, she's an independent woman. She's like, I don't need a ring. I don't need a ring. You're not going to lock me down. But, you know, actually, there's one part in this book
she's a fucking ghost, though. Where's she going?
I know. She going to ghost him. Okay. So there's one part in this book that I find very satisfying. And what I call this section, I find this section called boundaries, right?
Okay.
So, in general, to me, Xhex has a lot of the power in with John Matthew and her dynamic. And when later on they find out that there's a house full of lessers, like Lash tells them, oh, there's this house full of lessers, like go have at it, basically. Like, fuck the Omega, he fucked me, I'm gonna fuck him now. And Xhex is the only one who can go because she can be there in daylight. And so there's this like moment where she tells Wrath that it's going to happen. They go back and forth. They're like, no, you're not. Yes, we are. No, we're not. Yes, we are. And then she's about to walk at the door after they're like, okay, fine. We'll give her a bunch of weapons and let her go because she's an independent person. We can't stop her. And then John Matthew like grabs her for a moment and he's like, yo. You know, he gives her that look like, yo. And she's like, look, I'm either going to pull my hand away or you're going to let it go. And this could be a nice thing. But either way, I'm leaving, you know. And he lets her go. Which I liked, you know, that he was like, you know, you are your own person. I can't force you to do anything. However, he did something which you do in poly, right? Which is instead of telling someone what they can and can't do, right? So instead of saying like, you can't go out in the street and have sex with anybody without a condom, right? You wouldn't say that. You would say, if you go out and have sex without a condom, that violates my boundary. And so we will no longer be having unprotected sex, right? So that's how you like would phrase that. And so there's not a punishment necessarily on someone going to have unprotected sex, but now it changes what your rules for yourself.
The dynamic. To make
the rules,
right?
Yeah. So when Xhex goes out and she does her whole thing and she comes back to John Matthew, this scene was so great. When she walks in, she walks into the shower. She's all like, oh, he's going to be happy to see me. I'm back for him. He's in the shower. He sees her. He sports a big ass boner, but he's pissed. He's like, just because I got this boner don't mean I'm not pissed. You know? And she's like, I came back to you first. I haven't even checked in with anybody. I came to you first. He's like, big fucking whoop-de-doo. You know? Like... You know, and I love that he basically says to her, he's like, look, my boundary is like, in this is that we're going to work together. Like I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to have your back. We're going to work together. And then this is going to be over. Like, yeah, you know, we're going to do the damn thing and then it's going to be over. And I like that he set down that boundary point for himself. I liked watching John Matthew mature over the books, but this is really the book where he like mans up. Like, I agree. And I love that, you know? And I feel like Xhex in that moment got to be her most feminine side in that when he says that, she's like, you know, she's like, all right. She's like, oh shit. Yeah. You know when a guy talks to you in that tone where he puts his foot down and you be like, ooh, okay.
I also feel like it made her reevaluate because when he's like, and then we'll be over, she's like a little bit crushed because he's always been the one who's sort of held that space open for her. And I think that also helps her realize, oh, wait, do I really want to leave or do I want him? Like, do I want this to be over or do I want this to continue? One thing we haven't talked about yet is sex after rape. So trigger warning if anyone has a problem, either skip forward in this section or maybe stop listening because I don't know the time code that you should skip to, but I'm assuming it will be 5 minutes. So I liked that when they tried to have sex the first time when they were at Tor and Wellesley's house, she's like too triggered. Because to me that felt so fast. I mean, first of all, I want some vampire blood because how amazing would it be to be in the state she was in where she could barely even pierce his skin with her fangs and was dying. One day later, all she needs is fucking drinking of some ancient blood and, you know, some food. She's right as motherfucking rain. And I can tell you right now from the surgeries and stuff, she had surgery too. The surgeries and shit I've been through, I did not walk up the next day and bounce around like a little kitten and go fight things. So part A, I would like some vampire blood. That would be nice. I read a few reviews and a few of the people were talking about how they did not like that after that was the only instance where she was triggered and that all of the rest of their sexual experiences were good and perfect and mind-blowing and super hot and there was no more triggers.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that sentiment. So the first one where she's like super triggered, I thought was like right on the money. It was very fast after what happened. And then that's when she told. I also thought I wanted to lose John Matthew a point for this, but then I also remember that he's really immature. All the other brothers are so much older than he is.
So yeah, he's a child. He's like 27, and they're like 400.
But when that happens, she's like, okay, well, I got to confess, like, Lash wasn't impotent, and so then John Matthew gets the point, and he's, he shatters the glass in Tor's house, whatever. I'm not sure if he did it just by his roar or if he actually like hit it.
No, it was just the energy of his pain emanating out of him. Exploded.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So and then it, flash forward to him, like he's running on a treadmill till it breaks, and then he's on another treadmill and whatever. And I really thought that was her moment. Like it wasn't his moment, and it became about him. And like I'm very aware of this feeling because I have told you that I have dealt with sexual assault in the past. And when I was a kid, and what happens is every time somebody learns what happened, you have to revisit the trauma through their eyes and their pain and how, and then you have to, you've gone to therapy, you've gotten over it, you've moved on with your life, and then you have to console somebody who's broken up for you, Yeah.
And so, it's like that circle of, the circle of pain or whatever thing that you sent me, where it's like you're in the middle and then like directly outside of it is like your partner or your spouse, and then directly outside of that is like your immediate family, then it's like your extended family and friends, then it's just like random acquaintances, whatever, and how you should never put your feelings about something on the person inside the circle. So in that instance, you were inside the circle, or Xhex was inside the circle, and John Matthew shouldn't have put that on her. He should have put that outward to like the next ring of people who would support him and carry that burden for him.
Yes.
I did feel like he did kind of do that with Blay. Like he did try to not burden her and just like run himself to death to try to deal with it on his own. And I did like that Blay kind of was that person for him where he could unburden himself and then kind of come to a resolve. Like Blay's like, I got you. Like, we're going to find this guy. We're going to do it together. And John Matthew's like, okay, let's do that. But like, I totally agree with you. I think most people get that wrong. And I think the bonded male in him definitely got that wrong for sure.
Yeah, it was a moment where I was like, oh, John Matthew. Like Xhex is like standing by the door, babysitting him through this. And it had to be very difficult for her to reveal this to him, Yeah. He won't even reveal that to her,
Yeah.
And I'm sure that hit his trigger point too. That's also why he's running. But now she reveals something super whatever, and she probably got no comfort, for a long time.
Wait, when does he reveal to her that he was raped? Because he does reveal to her that
no, she goes into his brain. She goes into his energy when they're in the shower.
Oh, in the shower, like right after that. Okay, that's right.
And then she sees everything. She sees the blood in the drain and whatever. So he never reveals it. It just says that he doesn't get mad that she invades his thoughts. It was probably easier
like
for her.
He lets her in.
Yeah,
he lets her go in. Yeah.
But like, imagine, it was a long time between her revealing that to her receiving any sort of comfort for that situation. And I felt for her in that moment where I was just like, oh, great, I bear my heart out here, and now I have to babysit you while you're running on this treadmill. I need you to get it together.
Yeah. No, I feel that. I did. Yeah. Yeah. And for sure, obviously his response was also because compounded by the fact that he knows how it feels because he's also been raped, and then he also has dealt with Lash trying to rape him in their whole fight. So it was just like compounded and compounded. Were you upset that their future sexual encounters, there was no trigger ever for either of them on either side?
Yeah. So, I mean, upset is a too hard a word, but I was hoping that there would be maybe some modifications to their sexual experiences.
Like she's always on top or something like that.
Yeah. In order for her to help her feel not triggered by the situation. Also, it would have been really cool to see maybe a moment where they are being intimate. And maybe she does freak out and maybe they work through that moment together. Like I thought that the intimacy of that happening could have been a real, like great moment for them.
Zadist and Bella had a lot of those moments and they were very powerful, I thought.
Yeah. So I did think that the fact, like, Xhex becomes really, really human in this book for me. You get to hear a lot about what's going on in her mind. And she's very vulnerable in her own mind. Even when she's like, I'll just get home and I'll be all right. And she's like, and then there's a moment where she's like, well, I'm not all right. I'm probably going to be dying. I'm probably going to die here. And like you see her shifting in thought. And so I just felt like there were moments where they could have taken it a bit deeper between them. And I think that they could have used those sexual moments to actually even create sexual moments that were non-sexual, right? So, okay, I'm going to go on. Slight tangent, but I'll make it quick. So recently I told you I had a really traumatic medical procedure done. And I couldn't feel my body anymore. Like in terms of like, it was like I was disconnected. My mind and body were disconnected. My body would not turn on like sexually or like for anything. It was like I couldn't feel emotion or whatnot. If my partner was like feeling froggy, and me, I'm always froggy. And I would try so hard. I'm like, come on, body, get froggy, get froggy. And I couldn't. I just couldn't. And I was so, I was worried and I was like, what the fuck is happening? And some of the people in one of my support groups was like, what would help is non-sexual touch, right? So I've been learning shibari, which is like a rope tying or whatever. They were like, that's great because it's a sensation play where you get to feel parts of your body individually, and it'll help bring you and your connect your mind back into your body. They were saying that when sex is attached to it, it becomes something you're striving for, and it gives you anxiety. Yeah.
Sure.
So it would have been a really cool thing for Xhex and John Matthew if they did something that was super intimate, but not necessarily sexual in nature, before the sex started revving up, I actually didn't care as much as I thought I would for their sexual encounters. Like in other books, I'm like, that's hot, and I'm waiting for them. I actually really didn't. I cared more for their tender moments.
I cared more for their emotional connection.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So this kind of brings us all the way back to where we started, which is that John Matthew gave Xhex the killing blow. Way to go, John Matthew.
Way to go.
Way to go. Way to go, bro. So then, right, I love that also Xhex's response to that. So they go back to the clinic. Everybody's getting cleaned up. Everybody's got wounds and all that. And I love that she's like, okay, so now we're going to get mated. And he's like, oh, you want me to be your Hellrin? And she's like, yes, obviously that's going to happen. And he's like laughing at
right
her.
Now.
And she's like, okay, we're going to just do it right now. And he's like, you can't even walk. And she's like, watch me, bitch. And
no, what did she like? You can hold me? Didn't she say you can hold me? Yeah.
Yeah, you'll hold me up. It'll be fine. And I thought the scene with Tor giving her the mating gown, I thought that was so sad, but so beautiful. And also, I thought it was like a nice sort of closing the loop of that side plot of knowing that he was there and that he was taking care of her mother. Did you expect no one was her mom? Did you have any suspicions about that?
So no, I did not suspect that it was her mom. However, the whole book, I was wondering
who she was.
Like who she was, because they talked about her too much. you know?
Yeah. Okay. So no one is up in the sanctuary with the scribe virgin, and she's basically described as having like a thick black. Everyone's in white, and she's in like a black hooded cloak, and she's always serving all of the chosen and never taking anything for herself. Pain and her have a number of conversations, and Payne's always like, "Why don't you sit and have a repast with me? Why don't you come in the baths with me? Why don't you, like join me?" And she's always like, "No, thank you. Like, I have my work to do." So she's clearly doing penance for something. And I actually did think, only because there's only one woman in the whole book who I was like, that it could be, at least, unless she ended up being someone else. So I was like, if she's connected to this book, that's who I think it is. And tell me what you thought about Xhex's response to meeting her mom. Was it what you expected?
So, no. Okay, so the thing about Noan for me, right, was like, so I knew she was going to be somebody, at some point, somewhere. And when she talked about like, no, on the other side, things are not good. Here, everything is in order. On the other side, everything is not in order. And so I knew like she'd been through some things, but they also kind of described her as being like mentally handicapped some way. I don't know if that's a politically
No,
correct
physically. She had like a limp or something. Physically handicapped.
Oh, because I envisioned her as being somebody who had a mental, like, disability or something like that.
No.
So I didn't, so the idea of her, I actually really, in my mind, dismissed her as being like in future books as someone's, Shellen or whatever, because I thought it would be really like, in poor taste to like have somebody take advantage of her or something like that.
Sure.
So now, okay, that makes more sense, because this whole time I've had her in my head as being like impaired that way.
Changes the whole story.
That I don't know. Did you expect it to go down like that? Like,
I thought Xhex was gonna be kind of mad, or because Xhex in general is not a very warm and welcoming character. She's pretty standoffish to the people that she meets and interacts with. I thought she was going to be less welcoming and more like, how did you get here? I thought you were dead. I don't know. I just thought she was going to be more questioning. And I thought it actually ended up being a really lovely showcase of how Xhex emotionally evolved during this book and recognized how precious relationships are and how precious life is, because she had almost had it all snatched away again. And John Matthew almost got shot in the heart and she almost lost him. And so I think she sort of evolved through this and was like, I better take what I can.
Yeah.
I thought Tor's response was hilarious, where he was just like in complete shock. And I liked also that Xhex finally got to figure out why Tor is always like so nice to her. And she's like, I always stay away from him because it's kind of creepy. He's always so nice to me. And I liked that she finally found out, oh, he was there when you were born. Because I don't know why he wouldn't have told her that, except for that I guess he didn't want her to know that he knew she was half sympath, maybe. I'm not sure.
But also, I think they talked about them wanting her to have a normal life since she didn't look like a sympath. They thought that they could hide her away. And so if there was this looming male that couldn't really be explained, that might also raise a flag somehow.
But that's when she's like a child. I mean, he's been going to zero sum with Darius all the time for years and years. And like they've clearly been interacting for at least a decade, let's say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think at the beginning that makes sense.
So anyways, why is this guy looking at me?
It was a little strange.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. I don't necessarily know why, later on he didn't tell her. And it might just be a thing like so much time had passed that, sometimes, when someone tells you their name and then you've known them for 6 months and you still don't know their name.
Yeah.
And you're like, shit, that ship has sailed. I can't ask them now.
I'm such an asshole. And you're like hoping you're going to go somewhere with someone who doesn't know them. So you can be like, ask their names so that you can figure it out.
Oh, yeah. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I'll be like, Bridget, ask them your name because I have no idea. And or when you have to introduce people, someone you know, and you don't know their name to someone else, and you just, I always pretend like I forgot to introduce them. I'll be like, oh, this is Rob. And then I'll let like Rob introduce and hear their name. I was like, oh, sorry, I forgot to introduce you. Okay, Rob.
Oh, I thought you knew each other. Yeah, we're basically bad people is what we're saying.
Yeah, we're bad people.
It's true.
So, but yeah, it could just be like too much time had passed, and and it's like a can of worms, because if he does make that introduction, it's like, how do you know me? Let's talk about this. Let's go into this. And that's not a pretty story to know that your mom had you and then committed suicide. Like,
yeah, sure.
I mean, it's not kitchen table talk.
That's fair. I mean, like, how do you even bring that up? 200 years ago, while you were, born, I was the first one to hold you. Yeah.
But it is really nice. It is really nice because, it took me about halfway through Darius' story to know, like, okay, this is Xhex. I didn't remember that. And I actually thought that the story was going to go a little differently. I thought that the vampire wanted to be taken by the sympath in the beginning.
I did too at first.
Yeah, like when she was crying and he was holding her and they were like, the vacant eyes and whatever. And then they shot him and then they were like, her eyes were vacant. I thought she was going to be like, you killed my love.
You killed my lover. I thought so too.
Yeah, actually. That's why I thought it was going,
Yeah.
I do love that Xhex now has a bit of a legacy and a family beyond John Matthew. Even though both of them are kind of, they're kind of orphans and whatnot. But it's cool that Tor is a connector for them. I like that he gets flashes of being Darius in this book, and
like feeling like it's right.
Yeah, and because I don't remember what happens in the other books, I'm a little bit excited because I'm like, do we find out he's Darius at some point? I've only read up to The Chosen, so I'm like,
I'm pretty sure that John Matthew, that I've read an interview and she said that he'll never find out because it would, like, how he always gets the seizures, like when he met Beth and all these different places. So like it would be too much for his mind to like comprehend or whatever. So I don't think he's ever going to find out that he's Darius as well.
Got it. Well, it was cool. At least they had that moment where he had like deja vu when, when Lash gets shot and that sort of thing. Oh my gosh. So Xhex almost lost a point for me, by the way. When she had Lash and she was on top of him, and she did that thing that people do where they talk before they kill you.
I know. And double tap that motherfucker.
If you don't stab him right now in the throat, if you don't get him, she's just wailing on him, punching him. I imagine it though, where she's like,
"Get your guns out."
I was so mad at that. I was spitting mad. I think I stopped the recording because I was like, and then she gets taken hostage, and I'm like,
I know.
You did that to yourself.
I know. I didn't love that part. I did not love that part. But I also was a little bit happy because it would have, I think, been too fast of a kill. Because he was like, I know he was getting weaker and weaker and stuff, but I feel like it would have been too fast of a kill.
I just wish that...
And also because she wanted to tie it back into the Tor shooting the sympath thing, So that's clearly what they were trying to tie it back. So she had to be taken hostage to...
God, I was so frustrated.
I was annoyed. I was so frustrated. I thought it was dumb. So I thought the mating ceremony... I always like the mating ceremonies. I like any of the sort of world-building ceremonies, like when all of the brothers like stab the floor for Beth, when all of them... kneel for the king and like I just like all those moments. I think the mating with the carving of the back is like so symbolic that they're not human and that they're like other. And I love that he like gritted his teeth and didn't make any noise, and she was so proud. And then I also, to sort of wrap up their part of the story for today, I also thought that his response to her saying, should I get your name tattooed on my back? And he just like immediately orgasms. Like, I just thought that was like such a cute response. He's just like splooge, do it.
Big splooge. Okay, so now that kind of wraps up John Matthew and Xhex. We'll be right back with all of the other side plots. Hello, best friends. Thank you for being loyal listeners of Romance at a Glance. We're so happy to have you. If you'd like to support us further, head over to Patreon, where you can become one of our patrons. We've got a lot of great perks, such as merch and a super secret discussion group where Bridget and I talk to you directly about all things romance and all things nasty. So come on over. And now, back to our show.
Let's talk about pain.
Ooh, let's talk about pain.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I thought her emotional landscape in this book was so sad. Like everything, like she hates everything about where she is. The unchangingness, how everything is perfect. Like she just doesn't fit in. She hates being there. She's trapped. She's so kind to Layla and no one, but she's clearly just stuck, literally and metaphorically. And I felt so bad for her.
You know that conversation she has with Nolan where she's like, I gotta get out of here. This place is, everything that she hates about this place, Nolan loves about the place.
Yeah.
It's so crazy when she like goes to her mom and is like, yo, let me out of here. Like, I gotta get out of here, And she's like, that's not your destiny. Like, it was such a weird...
Fuck destiny. I'm going to kill everyone in this piece if you don't let me go.
It was such a weird answer to me because, like, if the scribe virgin knows her destiny or what she's supposed to do or whatever, then it doesn't make sense. It makes things not make sense for me. If she was just like, no, you're my daughter and you ain't going nowhere, that makes sense to me. But at the end of all of this...
I think, here's what I think. I get what you're saying. Because it's like, does the scribe virgin know everyone's destiny and is everything fixed?
Yeah.
But I think that she wanted she can see the paths in sort of destiny and where things are taking. And she wanted a different destiny for Pain than going down to the world. So I think she wanted her to like stay there and be with her or whatever, but she wanted a different destiny. And because so Pain and Wrath are fighting and she flies into the marble edge of the pool and breaks her back. And Wrath is like, what the fuck's going on? Let me help her. Yeah. And the scribe virgin is like, I don't want this for her. And the king's like, what's wrong with you? She's your daughter. Like, what is happening? Let her go. And she's finally like, I free you. Because I feel like she's basically like breaking what she did with Vicious, where she's like, okay, now I'm no longer your mother sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it said that she expelled her. And you said something interesting. You said something really interesting because, so like for me, I'm an empath, and my gifting is what I call pathways, right? Which is like I can meet somebody and see like where they're gonna be ahead of time, like where they're going, right? Mm-hmm. And I think with the scribe virgin, she maybe she knows that Pain's destination is, D, right? And she wants her to go A, B, C, D because that'll get her there with the least amount of pain, right? And the way that Pain wants to do it is going to, take her from A, Z, X, Y, all the way back to D. And it's going to be a more painful, process in general, right? So the end result will be the same. And maybe, so when she says that this is not your destiny, maybe it's just that, like, how you're going to get there is not going to be an ideal way. But Pain needs the pain. I think she's like somebody who needs to learn through, grit. Like any teenager, she's essentially like
wants the disorder. She doesn't want that perfect existence. Because the scribe virgin, she already said, like, I wanted my son to be the primale. Didn't clearly work out. And I wanted my daughter essentially to be like a paragon of the chosen. And, Pain she has described as being too much like the bloodletter. And then we find out in this one that the only time she was ever allowed to go down to earth, she killed her dad, the bloodletter. And I'm pretty sure she kills him for what he does to Vicious.
Yeah.
If I remember right. one thing I thought was interesting about her is that she knew about Vicious. She knew that she had a twin. She thought he was dead. The scribe version said that he was dead, but she knew about him. And Vicious does not know that he has a twin, doesn't know that she exists. And because Wrath is blind, he's never seen her. So he doesn't know that she looks exactly like Vicious.
Yeah.
And it's not until they bring her down to the world and Jane sees her and Jane is like, Vicious? Like, what's happening here? And Payne's like, why are you speaking of my blooded dead? And Jane's like, he's not dead. I'm mated to him. Oh, wait, she says I'm mated to him. So maybe they did get mated.
I guess it happens in the in-between that we're not.
Yeah, it's like off-screen, low-key.
Yeah. Vegas.
But I
Vegas
like
style.
that. I also like that her response to finding out that he's alive is, I will kill the scribe virgin just like I did my sire. She's just like, I'll kill that bitch. Just like I killed my dad. Like, watch me. You know, like she's I like it. I like that about her. I thought it was really a funny response. And I thought the moment where Vicious meets her and she sees him for the first time and he sees her for the first time and like they hold hands and immediately like the connection is so deep. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. So I did love that the connection was so deep. And back to your other point, like the fact that she knew about him and he didn't know about her. I kind of assumed maybe the scribe virgin took his what do you call it? Thoughts away, or Vicious went through so much as a kid that it like, and he left at like 3 or something. Like, didn't he leave?
No, you're right. He was 3.
He was like 3 years old, right? So they could have known each other. Both of them could have known each other.
But I don't remember shit from when I'm below 3.
I do.
And if no one, I think most kids don't. And also, if you think about it, vampires don't go through puberty until they're like 25. So like under 3 for them is like, I would assume under like 1 for us, you know? Like you're really little.
You are, but I feel like, they talk about they age normally until they get to like a certain age and then they start slowing it down. But I kind of feel like it is plausible that they grew up together, Vicious and Payne, playing with each other, little toddlers or whatever. And then Vicious goes to the bloodletter and he don't have time to remember Payne. You know what I mean? Like he's in trauma mode, but she's still living in, happy la la land and she just knows her playmate is gone. So it does feel to me like
and she could see him through the reflecting pools and stuff. Yeah. So she has the opportunity to keep seeing him.
So why would you tell him he's dead just so she doesn't want to go? She probably did that. She probably like, he died out there in the brutal world. You don't want to go out to that brutal world. It's a cold, cold world.
I wonder if she told him, though, he was dead, and that's why she kills the bloodletter. Okay, we're going to find all these things out in her book.
We have so much.
So many things. So much to find out. I don't even know which book is hers. Is it the next one? Who knows? We'll find out. I want to finish with Quinn, Blaylock, and Saxton because they're my favorite thing. But first, I want to talk about 2 quick things. One, I really loved that John, Matthew, and Tor finally repaired their relationship when they both finally got their heads out of the proverbial sand and just like manned up and apologized and sort of reunited as father and son.
Yes. And I think just really quickly that his relationship with Xhex, I think, also helped that happen in a little bit of a way because he could understand how Tor would feel losing a Shellen, like losing a mate.
Totally.
Do you know?
Totally.
He couldn't. He kept being like, he's just gone. But now he's like, oh, like he lost the love of his life.
Sure. I think I would be gone too.
Yeah, there's a more compassion there. I think that they both are having for each other now.
I agree.
And Payne is the next book.
I was just looking it up. I was like, I think she's the next book.
Payne and Manuel Manello. Manuel.
I am a little bit mad that the next book is not Quinn and Blaylock because I love them and I The burn is killing me, Shawnee.
The burn.
It killed
The
me
burn.
the first time, and it's still killing me. The only other thing I want to talk about before we talk about them, because I think we need to spend a significant amount of time on them, is the southern side plot where they're at the plantation and doing the paranormal recording. Mm-hmm. So obviously at the very, very end. So basically what happens is these two characters show up at this plantation. It's supposed to have ghosts. And then lo and behold, there's actually a quote unquote ghost, which turns out to be Murder. And he's like living in the attic. And the weirdest thing I thought though was that he goes and has sex with that lady. And then does he like brainwash that guy into being a better guy and taking care of her? Is that what happened? Or is it just that because she's so like sexually fulfilled, that guy gets jealous? But it seems like he kind of brainwashes that guy.
No, he brainwashed that guy. So one, he saw a girl who wasn't getting it like she was supposed to be getting it. So he gave it to her in a dream sleep.
He gave it to her.
Like he gave it to her. And she was like, I definitely had sex with a ghost. Which, if any ghost wants to come and give me some good, I'm open.
I'm open to it.
You know what I'm
saying?
I'm like, can't get pregnant from ghost sex.
Yeah.
But anyways, so yes. And then when he went up to the attic or whatever, he put into his brain that he was like not treating her well, not doing these things. I also think he might have removed some blocks from this guy because the guy talks about not being fulfilled in his own life and having some of these different insecurities. So I kind of feel like he just like took those mental blocks out of the guy so that he could actually connect with
because then all of a sudden they're like connecting and they're happy and he's like noticing all the stuff and she's incredibly happy. He's like noticing her and they film their special and they have this like whole wonderful side romance. And I'm like, I don't give a flying fuck about these two. And then you find out it's Murder and I'm like, that's cool because like Xhex thought Murder was crazy, but now he's clearly like maybe sort of repairing himself, although I think it's a little crazy to have sex with someone while they think they're dreaming. But I also, did you care? Or like, I mean, I thought it took up a lot of the book.
No, I did not give a flying fuck. I was like, why are we following these people? Why? What is happening here?
Yeah.
Like, and also, I don't know how you envisioned him, but I envisioned him as a pirate. Like, as this weird...
Me too.
I don't know why. I gave him like a peg leg and everything.
Yeah, like and dark hair and like a scowl.
Yeah, like, no, he had like the whole gamut, like the pirate hat, the peg leg, like the whole, even though they never said any of that. I
didn't think about a peg leg. I imagined him like a Confederate war general, where he's like on the wrong side of the boundaries.
That's actually
but still real sexy.
Yes, I could definitely see that too because I feel like there was a bit of a cross between it. It was like Confederate pirate, like pirate. I didn't foresee it being Murder, or whatnot. And I did wonder the whole book though, stupid now as it seems. So that was like, whatever happened to Murder? All the time I was like, whatever happened to that fool? Where is he? I'm like, what's going on with him? What's his life like?
Yeah, I liked though that she recognized him, but then didn't go. Because I feel like a lot of times in books, people feel like, oh, I have to like close this loop and oh, it's up to me and yada yada. And I liked that she was like, I'm happy that he seems better. She's kind of like, oh, that's where he ended up. And then she's like, oh, but he knows where I am. So if he wanted to contact me, he could come find me. Because I think that's a much healthier thing than her just like fucking showing up on his fucking doorstep. And he's like, yeah, I know where you are. You're where I left you. I know where you live. I don't want to talk to you. I have your phone number. I don't want to call you. So I thought it was nice that she left him alone. Okay, I just wanted to quickly wrap that up because like I just didn't care, but I wanted to hear your opinion. Okay, let's talk quickly about my favorites. This book made me so incredibly heartbroken.
Oh.
Like, okay, first of all, it starts with Blay and John Matthew and Quinn. Well, John Matthew's getting his tattoo. And Quinn decides that he's going to bang that receptionist. And Blay's like talking about how every time Quinn says yes to everyone, the one resounding no is louder. And I was like, Oh my God, how fucking hard would that be? Because it's not even like he's in love with Quinn and Quinn knows that, but Quinn is just like dating someone else or in love with someone else. Quinn's just fucking everything but won't fuck him. Which
Yeah.
I would be like, that's bullshit. Like, if you're a man whore and I'm willing to be part of that situation, then why am I the only one exempt from
But it
getting
makes
the same
sense.
from you?
But it makes sense in a way. They work together. I
They're
mean,
best
essentially,
friends.
they're
Yeah.
colleagues. So if it don't work out,
Well, they're not colleagues. They're way past colleagues.
Like
they are
okay.
best buddies for life.
Listen, they're best buddies for life, but that is also like the thing
get
that
it. No, I
makes
get
it
it.
suck. You know,
It's so sad.
Yeah, it's so sad. And I think one of the saddest moments, but also like a girl pair moment, is like when Quinn says at the end, he's like, you know, as badass as he thinks he is or wants to be, he has been ostracized his whole life because of his, you know, different eyes. And he's not ready to be an openly gay, you know, or bisexual or fluid, whatever you want. He's not willing to do that because the Glimera is going to judge him, you know? And he's like, I hate that they have that much power over me, but they do, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like...
And they had so many hot moments, though. Like, when Quinn is fucking that chick and he locks eyes with Blay, and Blay's like, oh my God, like, he is watching me watch him and getting turned on by it. Ugh. Oh my God. And then the scene, Shawnee, the scene where Quinn says in his mind, instead of out loud, like a real, like, he says, I miss you. I miss you so fucking bad it hurts, but I don't know how to even find you, even though you're right in front of me.
Ugh. I have that one written down too. Oh my God. First of all, this book had so many quotes. So many quotes.
I have 4.
I have 4.
And I narrowed it down from like 12. But it's 512 pages, and I feel like 4 is reasonable. It's reasonable. Yeah. I was just so sad for them both. I was so sad for Quinn because, like you said, he's still so trying to fit in to a world that he clearly is just not meant to fit into the Glimera. And like, I want him to embrace the whole Quinn that he can be. I also am so sad for Blay that he's like so in love with Quinn. And I think he suspects that Quinn is lying to himself about wanting a female Shellen and stuff. And he even says it to him in past books, like, are you sure it's not because of the Glimera? Like, are you sure? And like in this book, you know, when he's just like, say the word and I won't go, like, you have the power. Like, tell me not to leave. Tell me to stay with you.
Kiss me.
Kiss me. And then they kiss. Oh, but can you imagine the mortification after when Blay is like ready? He's like, they're making out. He drops his pants. And then Quinn's like, have a good time and just leaves.
Oh,
how fucking sad, Shawnee. Shawnee.
I think
they killed me
also,
in this
like,
book. They literally killed me.
And it's weird. I think this is weird because of the incest thing. You can't be like team throuple. But you know, it's helpful when the other character is someone you can hate, right? But Saxton is such a sweet soul, and he's zesty. You know what I mean? Like, he's got a
so
I like when he tells him like, oh, if you want to wear stripes, you know, like, I love when I just love his personality. So, and he is the softness that meets Blay's softness. You know, he's the acceptance that meets Blay's acceptance, but he's not Quinn. And it's so, you love it, but it's also so sad. And you also know that, and for me, I like the opposites attract. So the fact that Saxton is kind of so soft and Blay is also so soft to me, these two teddy bears, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me, like, in the long run.
I think in the long run, you're right. Obviously, he's meant to be with Quinn. I like that I feel like he's like what Blay needs, though, after like being rejected, like having someone pursue him and show him that they want him and sort of introduce him into like what it means to be in a partnership with a man in a way that he's never had before. Because the last time, you know, like he's was with women when he was with Quinn, and they were like having sex with lots of random girls until he realized like that doesn't do it for me. And then he's just been like hoping and waiting and lusting after and unrequited for Quinn. So this is kind of like his first relationship, his first adult relationship. And I think their
And
date
Saxon
together.
walks him through it so
and
lovely.
Saxton, I know, and he's just like,
He's like, this is the time where people kiss.
I know. I was just gonna say that moment is so sweet and so just like juicy, and I was literally hit by a feels train. I like when Saxon's like, I don't bite unless you ask, and like Blade just like doesn't even know what to do. He's like intrigued and into it, but also nervous. And I just thought it's just like their relationship is so great. And I thought Quinn's response to their relationship is so sad because
It's hella toxic. That's what it was. It was hella toxic.
Well, it's more well, you can tell me why you think it's toxic, but I thought it was sad because he's not saying, Blay, I don't think you should be with me because I don't want to be with men. He's saying, Blay, like, you're too good for me. You need someone who's as good as you, and Saxton is is on your level. Like, you should be with someone like him, not like me. Like, in his mind, he's saying all of this.
Yeah.
And he clearly, like, he's like, I don't like that I'm a man whore. Like, I don't like these things about myself, and you're so good, and you're so beautiful and so pure. Like, I don't deserve someone like you. And which, again, I'm like, stop trying to, like, put other people's feelings in your shit. Like, stop speaking for other people. Like, let them speak for themselves. But also, I thought it was really sad. And also very sweet that he's like, even though Saxon's my cousin, if he hurts you, I'll like rip his head off, basically.
This book made me not like Quinn a little bit more. Mostly because I actually really read his scenes. It's super manipulative to me, the way Quinn is with Blay. So Quinn and Blay are together. Quinn wants nothing to do with Blay. He's getting blowjobs and stuff from the girl at the counter. He's doing whatever he wants. Then Blay's like, oh, I have a date. Then Quinn's like, oh, my toy that I'm not playing with has found another toy, and now I want it, or I just don't want anybody else to want it, Right. And I didn't like that. So it's like he had that date set up with Saxton, and then Quinn appears, and he's like, oh, okay. And then he starts messing with him, and then he's like, okay, go on your date now. Like, how is he supposed to enjoy his date with someone else after this thing just happened? You got in his head, and then you sent him out, which I thought was cruel. I thought it was really cruel scene there. And then he shows up to the date and is following them and watching them, like stalker much. I was like, this is really, like, and I know it plays into their love story, but still I think that his actions towards Blay are very, what do you call it? Back and forth. Like, he's telling Blay, don't count on me. And then every so often throwing him breadcrumbs, and knowing that Blay is vulnerable to this, he does it. And then he pulls back and then he pulls back. And so, that for me kind of made me lose a little bit of my love for Quinn in this book. And I think I didn't just fully read all of their scenes because I was skipping through to Xhex and John Matthews when I read this before. So that's where I'm coming from with that.
Okay, I totally agree with you on all fronts. I think he was definitely hot and cold. Two things. One, I think that he is a vampire, not a human being, and is clearly fighting his bonded male reaction, because his bonded male comes out when they kiss, and Blay is like super shocked. So he's fighting the fact that he is a bonded male, but also doesn't want to be and doesn't think he should be. So I totally agree with you. He was hot and cold, and it was cruel. But the reason I liked that was that this book was the first time that Blay stood up for himself and was like, no, enough is enough. Like, you don't get to do that. Yeah. I'm leaving, and I'm going to do something that's healthy for me, because this is not healthy for me. And I liked that, because I feel like without Blay finally like embracing his own needs and wants and protecting his own heart, then we couldn't get to a good equal footing of them in the future.
That's true.
So I was focused a lot on Blay because I love Blay. I was focused a lot on Blay's sort of evolution because I do think that Quinn is being a little bitch. And I do think even in his internal monologue, he's like, I know I'm being a big baby.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to stop myself.
I do, and I do think Blay, I love that Blay did get a soft introduction to, because Saxon is the first guy he's ever slept with. And so he gets a soft, beautiful introduction into that relationship and into being with men. And I think in reality, in real life, I've heard so many stories just from my friends who, because they had to be in the closet, because they had to do it a certain way and it was taboo, they were finding people online where it wasn't safe and their first introductions were always real sketch, and that sort of thing. And that happens, more often than it should. And so it's really nice that even though Blay's not like super out, he was able to have a beautiful,
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the people in the gay community that I've talked to said that it was typically, in this instance, it was also like someone who is out and who has been with men, and then they are sort of like the new initiate. And that unlike sort of heterosexual people when they're teenagers who kind of get to have those first fumblings with people of their own age or their own experience level, and they get to kind of explore stuff together, like you said, because a lot of people are in the closet or maybe they're the only out gay person, but there's no other young gay teenagers out, or maybe there's none that they are attracted to who are out because there's only a few to choose from, that they don't get to have those sort of innocent fumblings, and they get kind of probably a more rough or scary or whatever adjective you want to use exploration of that. I thought Saxton and I just thought their little romance was beautiful, and even Blay going to his house and taking care of him after the humans beat him up and inviting him to the Brotherhood and to be fed by a chosen, I thought was just really well done. I felt Blay's sort of growing care for Saxton and vice versa, that Saxton was like, you don't owe me this, like why would you take care of me? And Blay's like, how could I not? Because that's who Blay is.
Yes. And as our question before is, why didn't the chosen feed Butch? Jody McIntyre came through on Instagram and said that Butch at that time was not a brother. And so the chosen were only meant to feed the brothers, and Vicious was not the primale. So he did not have control of the chosen at that point. And so that's why Beth had to feed Butch, which makes a lot of sense. So
right. Whereas now the
chosen are just up for grabs.
I was going to say given an option, a choice. But sure, they're just fucking up for grabs. It's like snackable chosen all over. Nom, 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 nom.
Well, my thing is like, right, the chosen have a choice, but do they really? Like, that,
of course they always do.
No, but think about it. I mean, honestly, think about it, right? And I'll relate it. I'll relate it to Christianity, right? So like, and that's only because it's my experience. So don't anybody take this personally. When I grew up, there were certain things that I was taught is how you do things, right? This is just how it goes. The chosen are like that. They were raised that this is how it goes. Now somebody walks in and says you have a choice, right? So I get to be an adult. I'm in college, and now I can do whatever I want. My mom's not watching me. Only God is. Do you know what I mean? And that is still a strong force in your choices. It was hard for me to say no to people. It was hard for me to do certain things because I had been raised a certain way. So the chosen have been raised that their goal is to feed these males, is to have their babies, is to do that sort of thing. And so, yes, there might be a few who have the gumption to say no, but there's going to be a lot that are going to take a lot of time to be able to stand in their own power and feel like they really have a choice. And so
I totally agree. It's like they were in a cult and now they have been released.
Yes.
And they do say that some of the chosen choose to stay in the sanctuary and they don't want to come down. And some go back and forth. My instinct is that Fury would choose the most woke of the chosen to give them a choice of whether or not they would like to help. And
Who's it,
generally, I
Selena?
feel like, yeah. And generally, I feel like, a human being or a vampire or whomever, if you hear, hey, someone got their shit beat out of them and you can help them and it's not going to hurt you, and it's, like feeding doesn't hurt them or endanger them, and Fury's going to be there. So I feel like I would be like, yeah, sure, of course, come over, let's do this, because, and I was not raised to constantly be helping people. But I do hear what you're saying. They are cult survivors, and that will take a long time to repair.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to finish with my Quinn and Blaylock saga with, when I read this book originally, I was so distressed that they weren't the next book in line, because I was like, I can't wait anymore. I need closure.
Me too. I was pissed.
And I still feel that way. I am still unhappy that they are not the next book, but the book after that. But I guess I will survive until that time.
Also, because Pain is like a recent introduction. She's only in the last 2 books. And that drives me crazy. I'm like, somebody I've been following from the beginning or from longer should get their book first. I'm like, it's too soon for Pain. She hasn't earned it yet.
But I totally agree. She hasn't earned it yet. I would like her to have had one book. Like, so she got now to the Brotherhood Mansion. So the next book's about someone else, so that we get to see her more. And then the next book after that is about her. However, I do think that the next book, if I remember correctly, has, again, the side plot is Quinn and Blay. So you do get a lot of their story, and like the drawn outness of their story, I think, makes their book much sweeter. If I remember right, who knows? The next book could not even have them. As we found out from this podcast, I don't remember very much from all the side things. But let's talk about our heroine. What kind of booties are you giving to Xhex today?
You know what? I gave Xhex 5 daggers. Okay, I didn't give her peach booties because I felt like it wasn't fitting for Xhex.
I love it. 5 daggers.
So I gave her 5. I felt like her entire story was justified. I felt like her reactions were justified. I felt like everything was in character for her. I love that she saved herself. I love that she broke through Lash's force field and damn near burned all her skin off and and broke her arm and everything in the process. It wasn't like an easy thing or whatever. Like the gumption that she pushes through. I don't know, and then I loved how vulnerable she got after that. She was like, I'm not invincible. And I'll probably go for Lash and I'll kill him, but I will also die. Like, I just loved her. Sorry. I went out. Yeah. I went a lot in there, but I love her.
I love her. I totally agree. The only thing I will add is that I love that when John Matthew, we didn't even talk about this, but when Z goes to John Matthew and says, I was raped too, and I talked to Mary and it really helped me, I think it would help Xhex. And John Matthew is like shocked and blown away. I love that when he suggests that, she's like, yes, because I want to be healthy and I want to be with you. And I know I got a lot of shit going on and I know I got to work through it. Because I think that too takes a lot of courage to acknowledge the broken parts of yourself and try to fix them. So I also gave her 5. I gave her peach booties. I didn't think of daggers. That's brilliant. And I will make your little emoticons on the website daggers. Okay, let's talk about John Matthew. What you got?
Okay. Hero rating, John Matthew, 5. I gave him a 5. He can do no wrong for me. The growth of his character from book 1 till now is amazing. He went from being a little kind of bitch, woe is me, pre-trans to like fuck everybody. I think he went to both extremes, and I love that he has middled out, right? So he went from being like super woe is me to super like fuck everybody, I'm not dealing with anybody's shit, to being like whoa, I went too far, let's find a middle ground. And he feels super justified to me. I love his interactions with Xhex. I love that he doesn't expect her to be who she's not, and that he's meeting her where she is. So yes, I gave him a 5.
I also gave him a 5, and I love that he makes the amends in this book that he needs to make from his actions in the early part of the book and also in the previous book. And I really appreciated that it wasn't like swept under the rug. He actually like went to Tor, talked to Blay, talked to Quinn, and was like, I fucked up. I'm sorry. I will do better. I think he was a McDreamy, and I wanted to give him a funnier Mick name, but he's just a McDreamy. He's just dreamy. I just love him.
I called him a McMuffin.
Oh, that's a good one. I love McMuffin.
I called him a McMuffin because I thought this book was so romantic.
So romantic.
I felt like this book was like, the expectation was that it was going to be steamy and this and that or whatever. And this book is about like a guy's skin falling off and people getting killed and whatever. And there was such a sweet romance. And
Dude, this is 2 sweet romances in a row for you.
Yeah, I'm in the feels.
This podcast is getting Shawnee in touch with the feels.
I know, Bridget, what's happening? I'm getting older and mushy. Like, so yes, he was a McDreamy McMuffin for me.
Aw. I also thought he was McDreamy. I love McMuffin. I thought we had some beautiful vanilla and emotional sexual encounters and non-sexual encounters. I already told you a few of my favorite lines because obviously I also had 4.
Oh yeah, we're going to have a lot. This is going to be the longest podcast ever.
I am just going to tell you the ones that I didn't already tell you. So, and you guys can go on Insta and see all the quotes or on the website. But I'll tell you the one that I didn't tell you yet, which is you are not half the male you could be because of what was done to you. You're twice what anyone else is because you survived. Is that yours too?
That's mine too. That's my number one.
That's a good one.
Sorry, read it again.
Okay. You're not half the male you could be because of what was done to you. You're twice what anyone else is because of what you survived. So true. Okay, I'm going to do my other ones and see if I get some other ones that we have the same. As she stood beside John Matthew and watched his huge body crumble down by the bed, the organ that beat beneath her sternum shattered like a mirror.
Oh, I don't have that one, but that one is beautiful.
Okay. What do you got? Tell me one. What you got?
Well, I have 4 of them, but 2 of them you already said during the podcast.
Okay.
Which is the hold you up one. I missed you. Yes. I miss you so fucking bad. Yes. That one. Oh, I love that one. Me. So the other one that I have that you don't have. Well, there's 2. Okay, here we go. So the truth was he was in love with her. Totally over the line, no going back, not even dead would he part kind of shit. That was a good one. And then this was actually between Tor and John Matthew. And Tor said, they were talking about Xhex. Doesn't have to be easy to be right. And then John Matthew was thought, in that case, we were meant for each other. And I thought that was just so sweet. Because at the end of the day, has anybody in a grown-ass relationship going through growth? I think there's a lot of people in relationships, and not all of them are trying to grow together, and not all of them are focused on their self-growth. As anybody who's in a relationship, constantly working on themselves, self-growth, and a couple growth, you know that a lot of the time it's not easy.
Yes.
A lot of the time it's not easy. You're there because you choose to be there, and because you have faith in yourself and your coupledom. And so I love that line because I feel like it's just like a universally true type of line.
So remember when I said I had 4 quotes? It turns out that I have 5. So I'm going to just tell you my last one, okay?
I know you have like 10 quotes over there, Bridget. Stop playing. Stop fronting over there like you only have one more.
Shawnee, can I tell you right now that I had 54 notes and 114 highlights in this book?
Absolutely.
So if anyone wants to see what I was highlighting or noting, it will be on Goodreads, and you can check out all of the things that I had comments about, because there was a lot of things, many of which we have covered in this podcast and some of which we have not. Okay, this was my last one, which we talked about, but I'll give you the quote. How about we head over to that tattoo place, maybe get my name on your back, Oh, wait, that's wrong. That's not how you say it. I'll start over. How about we head over to that tattoo place? Maybe get your name in my back. The orgasm that rocketed out of his body and into hers evidently served as a well enough reply. And I was like, I just thought it was so cute that he's just like immediately comes when he knows she's going to have his name on her back. I thought it was the sweetest.
It is the sweetest. And I love that. I love like a character like Xhex and John Matthew can give us the sweet, sweet feels. I love how J.R. Ward wrote that and made that possible.
All right. Let's talk about our favorite ratings and wrap this shit up because this is a long podcast. If you're sticking with us right now, props to you because we talked about a lot of things and I hope that you got a lot of laughs and a lot of feels. All right. What do you got? Tell me your review.
Okay. So my review is from Patsy G on Audible and she wrote title, wow. Of all the brothers, I was most excited to see where John Matthew headed. I knew he loved Xhex and always knew her issues were going to be hard to bear. But damn if the young boy alone all his life knew the right moves. He is passionate, loving, strong, and one of the kindest brothers. I thought Rev was my favorite, but John Matthew moved him over. LOL. This is a spellbinding series. Long listening, action-packed, nerve-wracking, sexy. I was sad when it was over. I felt like I left my friends behind. Sad face. That's how I felt too. When it was over, I was like, I was sad. I was sad to leave Xhex and John Matthew's story. And now I'm ready for the next book.
I thought what she said about him being the kindest brother, I liked that. Yeah. Mine was Amy Foxy Blogs, and she rated it 5 stars. And she said, I was beginning to lose heart the further I went in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series because of the charm these books had begun to fade for me. Books 2 and 3 were awesome, and Lover Mine ranks right up there with those other 2 books as being a great read. And I totally agree because books 2 and 3 were butch and zadist. Love those books. And then we had Fury, wah wah, and Vicious, wah wah, sadly. Wah, wah. And then obviously Revenge, which was dope. And then this one. So I totally agree with her. I got a little lost. I got a little lost, a little saddened. And I'm glad that we are right back up to the excellence of those books. So thank you, Amy Foxy Blogs.
Mm-hmm. I'm expecting that Payne's book next is going to be a womp. Like, I don't remember it, to be fair. But after that is Blay and Quinn. So,
yay!
And which we love. So there's always a womp between the love, right? We had 2 books that we loved. So I can't imagine liking this book. Like, you know what I mean? I just feel like it's going to be the womp, the book you got to get through to get to Blay and Quinn. And then when that happens, oh my God, that podcast is going to be lit. We about to get crazy.
All right. Well, until we get to Payne's book, may your books be your lover.
And your hand your best friend. Thanks for hanging in with us, romance readers. Head over to Instagram to continue chatting with us. We're super friendly. We want to cackle with you. We want to know what your favorite sex scene was. And we need more book recommendations. If you want to read along with us, go to our website, romanceataglance.com, to see what we're reading next. And we'll see you next podcast.